Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a card using some of the supplies from the Let's Go Anywhere collection. Okay, so I'm going to use the Let's Go Anywhere papers, the card making stamp set. Now with this one, the thin cut set is sold out, but if you check your stash and see if you have a heart shaped thin cut, then you can use the heart on that shape. And then the Let's Go Anywhere scrapbooking, I'm just using some sentiments. And also for the inside of my card, I'm going to use the sentiment from Let's Go Anywhere card making workshop. And then I'm going to use some arrow dies or an arrow die from the Decorative Shapes thin cut sets. Okay. So let's get started. I'm going to cut this piece of pattern paper down to 3 inches by 4 inches. First, I'm going to cut the zip strip off and I'm going to use it, and it's super cute. It's got these little geotags in white on toffee. And then I'm going to cut this passport pattern down to 3 by 4. And then I'm going to bring a piece of toffee cardstock in, and I'm going to cut that at about 2.5 by 4 inches. Now, with the technique I'm about to use, you might want to use, you cut it at like 4 and maybe 1/8, because the paper does shrink a little bit, okay? But I covered it up and made it work. So just spritz your paper with some water and then crumble it up. Just crunch it up really well and then unfold it. And to speed things along, and because I'm impatient, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with my heat tool to dry it. And this is probably what causes some of the shrink, the paper to shrink a little bit. But I make it work. Okay, we'll get it cleaned up because water is deadly to paper, so you want to make sure that you don't get it anywhere else. And we can move on. Okay, so I have a piece of scratch paper, and I'm going to bring in my toffee ink, and I'm just going to brush over those crunch areas, the folds in the crumpled up areas, so that I can distress and grunge up this piece. And then I'll bring in my foam tool to go ahead and ink up the edges as well. So just grunge this piece up so it looks like an old piece of matte paper or leather. And adding a little ink makes it look really cool. Okay, now we can move on. I have this heart-shaped world stamp in my MISTI. I'm going to use jade and sapphire to stamp with, and I'm basically doing the rock and roll technique using my MISTI, and that's because I want to be able to stamp a couple of times. So to do that, I'm going to use a sponge dauber. And I've inked up the stamp with jade, and then I'm going to use the sponge dauber to add some sapphire ink around the edges of the image. And like I said, you could do the rock and roll technique with a block, but then you only get the one stamp opportunity. And I want to really make the jade area of this stamped image to be dark. So this way I can ink up the stamp again, and then go ahead and do the same technique and use the sponge dauber to add some sapphire around the edges. And then I can stamp it again to make sure I like the image that's stamped. Okay, now we're ready to continue on. I'll go ahead and get that stamp cleaned up, and we'll remove it from the door of the MISTI. And then I'm going to bring in these other stamps that I pulled from the Let's Go Anywhere scrapbooking. And this one says adventure awaits, and it's 2 words. I'm going to use the light side of shortbread, and I want to place those stamps down so that I have enough room to cut around them. I want them to be on strips that are about 1/2 inch wide. So I've got a good gap in between the two, but I'm going to stamp them at the same time. And I'm using scarlet ink. So again, I want this to be nice and dark, so I'm going to stamp that twice. So we'll ink it up again really well and stamp that out. And then we'll set that aside. And then I'm going to bring in some toffee cardstock. And this time I'm using the light side of toffee. And then I have this little stamp here that says, "Let's go." And it just happens to fit perfectly in that arrow, the smallest arrow from the Decorative Shapes thin cuts. So again, I'm stamping twice with sapphire ink, and I've left enough room around it so that I can cut that with the arrow die. Okay, so off camera, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the arrow, and I'm also going to cut another arrow in this scarlet glitter paper. So I went through my scraps and found a bit of scarlet. So I'm going to cut that. So I'll have just a little bling and shine. And then I'll cut out the heart as well. Okay, so I have all those cut out, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut around my words that say "Adventure Awaits." So I'm just placing them in my trimmer, and this is, if you didn't get them exactly straight, this is how you can cut around them to make sure it's straight. So I'm just placing them in my trimmer and looking at the very tops of the letters, and that gives me just enough room to trim around. And then I'll cut that strip at 1/2 inch. And then I'm just kind of eyeballing it a little bit on the edges. So we'll cut around that, and then we'll cut around the word "awaits." And we'll do the same thing, and it'll turn out to be a 1/2 inch strip as well. Okay. All right, now we'll bring our other pieces in that we've already cut. I've also die cut 2 extra white hearts so that I can stack them. And then we'll bring in a card base. Smooth that out with the bone folder, and then I'm going to ink around the edges of my card base with some toffee ink to grunge that up and distress it. Now you could go with some vanilla cardstock and have your base as vanilla, and then stamp the heart image on vanilla. I'm also going to grunge up the edges of this heart image, but I kind of liked the way the white popped, so I chose white instead. It's up to you which color you want to use. I kind of like the way the green and blue really popped against the white, so that's why I chose that. Okay, for the inside of my card, I'm going to use the sentiment that's from the Let's Go Anywhere card making workshop. And I'm inking that up in sapphire ink, and it says, "Let's explore together." So I think this card, with it says "Let's go" and "Adventure Awaits," and then inside "Let's Go Explore Together." It's kind of appropriate for the Stampin' Up transition, and I'll be signing up with them shortly, and I'll be transitioning over to Stampin' Up, but we'll still have some Close to My Heart branded products to be able to sell over the summer. And I'm pretty excited. I think this will be good. Okay, so I'm just going to lay things out. And like I said, that grunged piece of toffee, if you cut it at about 4 1/8, you'll have enough. Once you crumple it up and it shrinks, you'll have enough that it'll be 4 inches once you put it on your card, but I made it work. Okay, so we'll go ahead and glue everything down, and then we'll add that zip strip at the seam where the 2 pieces meet. And make sure that you position your geotags in the right direction when you place this piece down. And just basically gluing. So like I said, my website, it closes at the end of this month, April 30th. And then I'm stacking these hearts together to give them a little more definition, so it's like a piece of chipboard. So my website closes at on April 30th. And then May 1st, I will have my website open at Stampin' Up, and I'll have some more information once I have it. I'll make sure that I put information on my videos that are closer to April 30th. Okay, so like I said, I'm just basically gluing everything together. So we'll glue that heart down. And then the strips, I'm just going to put glue on the right side because they hang over the edge there. And I'll fix this in a second. I don't want to cover up that zip strip, so I'm going to shift it a little bit down. And they're hanging over, but don't worry, I'll have a fix for that in a second. We'll go ahead and glue down our arrows first. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, and a lot of other Close My Heart makers we're sad, of course, but I think we're also pretty excited about what the future holds. Okay, so because those two pieces are hanging over the edge there, I want to pop them with some foam tape. So I'm just cutting that down, and I'll just slide a couple pieces of foam tape right under the edge there to support them. And then to finish off my card, I'm going to add some of these blue dots. They come in circles and hearts and stars, and I'm going to add some of the hearts and scatter a few around. And there's my finished card. So I'll make a list of all the supplies that are still available with links in the description below. And I think you can make this card without the thin cuts that unfortunately they've already sold out as a part of the stamp sets, but I think you can use the stamps only sets, and those are available. So you can still make this card. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. You'll be able to find all of my videos. And thanks for watching.